If you don't know what an escape room is, it's when white people spend a lot of money to get kidnapped and held hostage in a room. And then they gotta find clues to get out. White people, do you watch the news?
This is the hilarious Erik Rivera. Erik is no rookie. He's been performing in front of crowds for more than a decade. He shot onto the scene after his splashy appearance on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. He's best known for his half-hour HBO comedy special, Super White, a performance that reflects his life as a half Guatemalan and Puerto Rican man, a father of two, and a husband to a white woman. My name is Christopher Rivas, and this is Brown Enough, Stories Between Black and White. Here we go. We start with a little rapid fire.
Okay.
You ready?
Let's go.
Favorite film with a Latino lead?
Desperado.
I don't want to kill you. I just want you to take me to him. Understand what I'm saying?
Best joke you've heard from another comic?
Best joke I've heard from another comic. That's tough, man, because it changes. Like, every time a new special comes out, like, I'll listen to something, like, oh, that was pretty good.
What's standing out right now?
I think for me, one of my favorite specials is Chappelle's first special, Killing Them Softly.
Oh, my gosh. It's
so,
incredible.
The baby on the corner.
That's
always
so
one of my
good.
favorite. Yeah. Hey, baby, what you doing? I'm selling weed. Like, that's one of my favorites.
I look out the window. It was a fucking baby standing on a corner.
Favorite TV show on right now?
Favorite TV show, Abbott Elementary.
The staff here is incredible. They're all amazing teachers. I really look up to them all. Please, sit down! Well, I look up to the older ones.
Recent album or song that you love?
Recent album or song that I love.
Are you a music guy?
I am a music guy. Recent album. What am I listening to? Bad Bunny's album's pretty dope. And it's so funny because my wife, she's Caucasian. She rocks out to it and she has no idea what he's saying. I'm like,
is she saying the words or is she just feeling it?
She gets some words because he goes so fast. You know, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans.
He goes so fast.
Yeah. So she likes Titi me preguntó.
Ay, Titi me preguntó si tengo muchas novias.
And she preguntó, VIP. Like, she knows those little, the keywords.
Everybody say cheese.
Yeah, she knows.
Selfie.
Yeah.
Say cheese. Senor, can you introduce yourself for people who don't know?
How you doing? I'm comedian Erik Rivera, and I'm here with my man Chris Rivas.
What made you want to become a comic?
Man, you know, I think I'd always known I wanted to do some kind of performance. I was about like 12 when I first saw like Wazama's first one-man show, Mambo Mouth. And it was like one of those things where like our families would get together for boxing matches and comedy specials. And that was the first time I saw somebody of my background, somebody that I could relate to. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the jokes went over my head because I was so young and I was like, I don't know what he's saying right there. But I just remember him being so charismatic and so just entertaining, and my family just glued to the television watching this dude. And at that point, like, I had the bug. I wanted to perform. So, I started doing, like, in elementary school, I did some school plays, and then middle school, I did a school play, and then high school, I tried out for theater. And they rejected me quick.
Oh no!
Yeah, so because I didn't
have it.
I didn't have a theater background, so I didn't know what theater was. I just saw like these flyers. I was like, oh, prepare a monologue, and I was like, oh, I know a monologue because at that point,
what'd you do? Do you know?
Yeah, do I know? So at that point, I was religiously. When I say religious, like every day I was watching John Leguizamo's Freak, right? And it was on VHS tape. We had illegally taped it, and I had the little Scotch tape on it so you couldn't record over it. And I was watching this thing every day. So I was like, oh, I know a monologue, right? So I go, And the other kids, they're doing Virginia Woolf and Tennessee Williams and Shakespeare, and I just get up there. I'm like, John Leguizamo's Freak. Here we go. And it's the scene where he talks about masturbating for the first time, and like I'm in it, dude. Like I am
on the toothbrush.
On the toothbrush, yeah.
I noticed.
I'm on stage and I'm like going in, like the kids are laughing. The theater director, this old white guy, like I knew he did not like it because he was getting pinker and pinker and redder as I kept going. I don't know why he let me go that long too. Like I was like, ping, 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 ping. Like I'm doing the whole thing, dude. And he's like, all right, cut. And he's like, we don't have anything for your type of character in this upcoming play, but we will be in touch. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. At that point, I was like, wait, this dude doesn't have my email. You don't got my
hit you
phone
with
number.
we'll be in touch.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. I would see him, and he would just divert his gaze in the hallways. Like, I'd be like, hey. And that was the end of my high school theater career.
Where are you in the world in this? Where is this?
This was in New Rochelle, New York, New Rochelle High School. And then, and so comedy didn't come till I hit college. Like I, went to college with a communications degree because I didn't know what I was going to do, but I didn't want those careers that my mom had thrown at me, the doctor, lawyer thing. I was like, I'm good. And then I joined this student organization, and I started working on like the special events. And one of my favorite special events was the comedy shows. And then once I started getting involved with that group, like I started helping put together the comedy shows. And the cool thing about it is like, because I went to Pace University in New York City, you could go to all the comedy clubs. And there's like 10 clubs in the city. So I was going to the clubs all the time and they would give you free tickets because they wanted the comedians to get booked and make college money. So I was going to shows every night. And I was watching dudes who were like coming up. Like Kevin Hart was coming up. Like I used to watch him host shows.
Whoa, at comedy clubs in New York.
Comic Strip Live. Cool. I got to see Mitch Hedberg, Patrice O'Neal, Greg Giraldo, like these dudes who at that point were now they're heavy
Mitch
hitters
Hedberg.
and legends. Yeah, dude.
Wow.
So I got to see them before they were who they are today. And it was like I was hooked. I was like, oh my God, I want to try this. And then, the comics were all very supportive. Like, yeah, just go to an open mic and try it. Like this it's the one career where it's like you got to jump in the pool and you better start swimming.
You didn't take a class?
No, I didn't take a class. They gave me a book. It's called The Comedy Bible by Judy Carter. I get no money off of it if you go buy it, but it shows you the joke structure. It's like, hey, this is how you do premise, punchline.
So you still believe in this book?
Yeah, I still do. Like anytime anybody comes up to me after shows and they're like, I want to start doing comedy, get this book. Because the book, all it does is it's going to teach you how to write a joke. This is your story, this is your premise, this is your punchline. It's just a very simple, like, this is setup, premise, punchline. Like that's the basics to joke writing. Now, are you funny? That's on you. Like that. Like I said, you got to jump in the pool and you better start swimming, because that's all comedy is.
You joke a lot about your parents and their 30-year marriage.
Yes.
My father is a big part of my work. What is it about your parents that are so sort of crucial to your storytelling?
I think, your parents are always your example for anything. Whether they're a good example or bad example.
For better or worse.
Yeah, whether they're good example or bad example, they're sort of what your first and only example for anything, like for relationships, for marriage, for parenting. Like that's who you saw. So whether it's good or bad, they're helping shape you. Like I always joke around that the reason I'm such an involved father with my kids, I got 2 boys, 6 and 10. The reason I'm such an involved father was because my father was so uninvolved. The reason I try to be open emotionally to them, and even that's been a struggle because my father was my example for me, and that dude, I think, I have a joke in my mind. I think he told me he loved me like one time. You know what I'm saying? So like I overly do it to my kids to the point where they're like, all right, Dad, we get it. You love us.
Me.
Yeah, but like that's your first example. Like, so, even in this career that we do, like, entertainment, like, that's not a viable career choice when it comes to immigrant parents. But we've seen how hard our parents bust their asses, and we know that there's more out there. We want to strive and do better. So they are our example, no matter, again, better or worse, that's our example. So we try to build off of that.
I think something about you saying like, all right, Dad, we get it, like you love me. there was a time in my life where my parents, it's so crazy to even say out loud, my parents' love for me could feel like overwhelming.
Right.
I could be like, and I'm an adult and I'm just like, God, why do I got to talk to my mom so much?
Right.
Like, she always want to talk. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember I was dating someone who did not have a close relationship with their parents.
Right.
And she just stopped me and she was like, I wish my mom
Right.
called,
Yeah.
I wish my mom cared about what I was doing, and just sort of our storytelling about our parents and our
Right.
relationships. And, you can turn something like, I think this is what comedy can do really well. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm romanticizing it, but I'm like, you can turn something like my dad not saying I love you to me, not only into something funny, but into medicine. So many of your jokes are around your life at home, with your kids,
Right.
with your wife.
Right.
What's that conversation? Do they know? Do they agree? Do you have to run it by them? Do you workshop stuff together?
I'll tell you, in the beginning, my wife was like, I need to hear what you're going to say about me. Right? Because I think her fear was always like, are you going to badmouth me up there? Like, what are you going to slander me up there? And I think her and I have this, sort of understanding. And she gets what my act is. I'm very self-deprecating. I'm very like, if you look at the dynamic of our marriage and in terms of like comedy, I'm the dumb one. I'm never putting it on her like, oh, can you believe this ball and chain? Like, it's never that. It's always something that happens where I go, oh, that's funny. Like, I this is an old joke and it's not on any special, but me and her got into this fight over a misunderstanding. Like, I was trying to, I think this is like when I want to get a new iPad. And she was like, we don't have money for an iPad right now. Like we have to save money. At this point, we were like talking about buying a house and our future. And this was pre-kids and stuff. And I remember she came home one day and her job was giving her, the continued education. And she was like, I'm thinking about the GMAT. Like it's a test to get more schooling, but I'm dumb. I thought it was like a Google iPad. She's like, I'm thinking about the GMAT. Like, what do you think? And I was like, oh hell no! Like, oh, you're gonna get the GMAT, but I can't get the new iPad. And she's hysterically laughing at me. I was like, I don't see what's funny right now. You're just gonna go get a new GMAT, but I can't. And
I thought you wanted to save for a house.
Yeah, I thought we were saving money. And she was like, do you know what a GMAT is? Like, no. But I was like, when you get so mad and you're just like, I'm standing my ground. How dare you talk to me like this? And then when she told me what, I was like, okay, all right. But we're saving money, right? We not, okay. No one's getting iPads? All right, cool. So that's usually the root of my act. It's always like just some misunderstanding and just me and her and our dynamic, So it's never like, at the end, I love her. I wouldn't have married her if I didn't love her, So I'm not going to go badmouth her or talk badly about her on stage or paint her in a bad light. Because then as an audience member, you're watching this going like, then why the hell did you marry her? Like, if you're going to complain about her so much, what the hell are you doing? And don't get me wrong, like some comics, that's what they do on stage, like, oh, my wife. But that's, I truly care about my wife. I adore her. So, and she's not paying me to say this. I'm being honest. So when I talk about her on stage or
she's in the studio right now.
She's in the studio, guys. She's watching right now. No, so when I talk about her, it's, this is the dynamic. Like I'm trying to relate to the audience more of a, we've all had this fight. Oh, we've all been in this situation. So, like my job is same thing with my kids. I'm not trying to embarrass them or shame them. This is just part of parenting. This is part of marriage. This is part of relationships. And that dynamic is what people relate to. Like my kid, he's 10 now. He just recently found out that I talk about them on stage.
Yeah, how does that go down?
It was so funny. So I was doing a show, and he comes with me sometimes to shows. He's older and
10.
He's 10, yeah. I was doing shows with Angela Johnson, and she's a clean comic, so I don't mind taking him with me to that. I'm like, you know, he can watch the show, and I don't have to worry about him learning anything and getting in the car like, so Dad, real quick, what's third base? And I'm like, okay, hold on, what did you hear?
What's a Stanley steamer, Dad?
Yeah, Dad, real quick, teabagging, what is that? So I never have to worry. Like I pick and choose what shows I take him to, and he was there, he was hanging out, and I just remember as we're walking back to the car, you know, I was like, oh, did you like the ice cream? Did you like that? And he's like, yeah. Can I ask you something? And I was like, yeah. He's like, so you just talk about us. And I was like, what? He's like, I heard what you said. You were talking about me. And I was like, yeah, but like if something funny happens, I take the story and I exaggerate it, and I try to get people to laugh at it, and people understand what's happening because some people can relate to it. And he was like, okay. I was like, do you like when I talk about you? Do you not like when I talk about you? And he was just like, he shrugs it off like as a kid does, like, I don't know. And I was like, all right, well, let me know. And he's like, okay. And that was it. I was just like, but it was the first time it clicked to him, like, oh, you just talking about us up there. That's what you're doing.
Has it come up again?
No, he hasn't brought it up. He hasn't been to a show recently, so I think maybe on the next one he might have notes. I don't know.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Erik is going to tell us all about the importance of creating an ecosystem that supports others. And we are back with the hilarious comedian Erik Rivera. As an artist who uses my life to make my art, to write about my experiences, what is the relationship for a comic between actually being present and like seeing everything as material?
I think it's a fine line, man. Like, you have to be present to sort of absorb what's happening. Because you can look at stuff. There's some comics that are writers. So I'm breaking it up into groups. Like I think in comics there's writers. These are guys who can just churn out jokes, and they're super funny. Like Dave Attell, Mike Vecchione, Stephen Wright. Those are joke writers. They are funny, and they can take a topic. You'll be like, oh, global warming, and they'll by the end of the day have 20 jokes for you. Then there's performers. There's people that have to actually go through the process and take you through the process of what's happening. And those comics walk a fine line because you have to be present, because I have to take you through an experience where I need you to feel the same things I was feeling in that moment. So it's more than just writing a joke. So in my last special, I do a joke about, and this is a joke my son heard was, he got in trouble at school because he was playing around and he touched his kid's privates, right? It wasn't anything sexual. He just poked the kid and that was it. But then the other dad gets upset about it. So I have to take you through this whole process of what the lead up to that conversation was. And as a performer and being present, I have to take you also through the uncomfortableness that I'm dealing with. Like first time, like the teacher calls me in and like, hey, we need to talk. And I'm like, okay, why didn't you call his mom? Because I don't know what this is, but I don't want to be here. And then her explaining like he touched a kid's privates, and it's like, oh man, like what did he do? Did he like, and her going like, no, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. Like you just brought me in here. I don't know what this is. And then, that lead up. So for me, I have to be present so that I can take you through those emotions. That's what like really good comics do when they're storytellers. A great guy that I think is amazing is Gary Gulman. Like he's got a special on HBO where he talks about his depression, and he takes you through those feelings. Like that's his job, like to take you through those feelings, like so that you can feel what he's going through. I could write a joke about it, about my kid touching kids' privates, and boom, 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 and we're done, and you don't get those feelings, and I don't take you on that roller coaster.
your wife being white is a recurring theme in their stand-up.
Yeah.
It was a theme in my life at one point.
Right.
I wrote a whole New York Times piece about it. I got a scene in a show about dating white women. It has been a part of my life of examining why that was.
Right.
For you, was the joke like when were you like, this is a joke, or when were you like, did it make you feel ever uncomfortable, or how does it get to this stage?
It's so funny because like when I first met my wife, it was never a thing of like, oh, she's white, this is why I'm dating her, or this is why I'm attracted to her. You know, I think the younger generations, you're just like, oh, whatever. Like, people are just people. You fall in love with who you fall in love with. Like, she just did things, you know, and she had experiences, and just we vibed. And I was like, oh, this is who I want to spend my time with. And then once you start getting around the families and bringing her around your family, that's when you start realizing, like, oh, there's some funny stuff here, because they're not used to these things. Like, you know, if I'm gonna be honest, like my family always, you know, they're as much as they're like, oh no, we're not discriminatory. But like, my mom wanted me to marry, you know, a Latina, a Pentecostal Christian Latina who went to church, and then so when I, you know, come home with something different, it was always like, mijo, she's not good enough for you. Mijo, don't, please, you know. And it's like, you're gonna fall in love with who you fall in love with, and then you start seeing these cultural differences between both families. Like, you know, when I visited my in-laws the first time, you know, I tell a version of the story, but the real story is like, so we're at the house. They live in Maryland, not in Baltimore or D.C. They live like Western Maryland. And her mom just lights up like, oh my God, I bought this thing. I need to show you. I need to show you this thing. Like, I bought this thing, and you are the person that's going to appreciate.
I'm so nervous right now. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, she's like, you are going to appreciate this more than anything. And I see my wife and her brother, and they're like, Mom, don't. Like, they're like, please don't. And she runs and comes back out. It's a serving dish. It's about yay big. It's a sombrero, glass sombrero, and you put chips on the rim of the sombrero, right? And it boom, and then there's a button you press in the Mexican hat dance, and it opens up, and that's where you put the guac and the dips. And she is like, when like almost to the point of like, when you see this thing, we're gonna be best friends. And you know, look, you can be offended and go, what the F, or just realize that this is the first time they've been exposed to a Latino ever, maybe. Like, this is the first time they've actually, and we've had those conversations like, oh no, you can't. No, that's not okay. You can't do that.
You had the conversation with the parent.
Not that day. That day, as a comic, I was excited. I was like, oh, this is great.
It's gold.
And my wife was like, please don't be mean. I was like, I'm never gonna be mean. Like, I'm never gonna be mean. But throughout our relationship, I've been able to have those moments of going, hey, this is why this doesn't work. And it's, you know, you realize it's not a mean thing. It's they're just a lack of awareness of what it is. Like, when we first got married, like, we had a rehearsal dinner, and she
brought the hat.
No, she didn't bring the hat. But, you know, to that point, she was like, oh, you know what we should do for the rehearsal dinner for Erik's family? We can hire a mariachi band, and we can have like a taco truck. And it was a teaching moment of going, okay, thank you, but we're not Mexican. My mother's Guatemalan. My father's Puerto Rican. So the mariachi band, that's Mexican. It's going to fall on deaf ears. Like, we're not going to know. We'll appreciate it because it'll be Spanish music, but it's not really going to hit the way you think it's going to hit. And it's one of the, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I know. Taco truck is great, but Puerto Ricans, we don't really eat tacos. We're going to enjoy them. Don't get me wrong. I moved to LA. I love tacos. We don't make tacos. Guatemalans, they kind of here and there dabble in tacos, but not really. That's not their main thing. So again, that we will appreciate that there'll be Spanish food there, but we're not really it's not going to hit the way you think it's going to hit. So it's those teaching moments of being able to go, look, this is why things are different, you know?
So you've been in the game a long time.
Yeah.
What has been the evolution? For example, I look at, you talked about that Chappelle killing him softly.
Right.
I think, and I could be completely wrong about this, I think a younger Chappelle was the joke guy.
Yeah.
And I think he has evolved to this sort of long storytelling.
Long story, thought process.
Long story, thought process.
Yes.
Like, really take you somewhere.
Right.
Versus like, boom, joke,
Right.
joke. What is your evolution? I know in your work you touch on race and class, and what don't you touch on? What do you want to touch on? What haven't you touched on?
I feel like I've evolved. Like if you watch like my first special that's on YouTube, it's called I'm No Expert. Go check it out. I'm very much a joke guy and just trying to be funny. I think that's like when you first start comedy, that's all you want to do. I need to be funny. I talk about dating and stuff, and none of it is really, I don't want to say it's not real, because it is. It was real for me at that moment, at that time frame. But now it's like I'm really, now with all the race stuff and the culture stuff, like I'm trying to say something, because I'm at an age now where you always like, what's my legacy? Like, what am I leaving behind to my kids? Like, when they look back at the body work, they're gonna go, oh, that was dad. This is what he was doing. So for me, it's like I'm really trying to share my life with people and share those experiences and trying to, point out like, hey, look, we're different, but we're at the same time we're the same. Like, and we're all fighting these same battles. Like, I think that's one of my favorite things when I get off stage. Whether you're Greek or Italian or French or whatever, they're going, oh my mom is just like that. Like, yeah, she is. All moms are a little, overwhelming, and they can be a little crazy. And my dad does that. Yes, they do. Because I feel like with Latinos, sometimes it's so hard to understand us because even watching us on TV and stuff, like we don't have enough representation. So people have these weird stereotypes in their head and don't really get us. So what I'm trying to do is just hey, we're all, look at us. There's a spectrum of us. Like we're not all cholos and gangbangers. We're not all this or whatever weird thing you have in your head. We're not all, we don't all have the bad accent. We're like, some of us are trying to fit in just like you. We're all uncomfortable trying to fit in and make this world work.
What's itching at you to also say, maybe, if you can share it, if you're like...
Yeah, so right now, like I've taken a little hiatus off of stand up and
because
social media, just because I the boys at their age and just everything going on, like we're doing stuff around the house, we're working on the house, and just I'm dealing with some stuff with my mother and her health, and it just a lot happening right now. I figured I just want to take a break, just because mentally there's a lot going on for me. And, I need to deal with all of that before I can be on stage and be, like we were talking about before, fully present and fully connected to the audience. So I've taken a little hiatus. But as things are happening, like these are things I'm, taking notes on. Like, all right, we're going to talk about that once I'm ready. Like I did a special on HBO, Entre Nos, and in it, like I talk about my father's Parkinson's. He passed away. And it's one of those things where you have to go through it first before you can finally talk about it. So right now I'm going through stuff, and in time, hopefully I can develop that. And again, like I'm trying to say something. Like with the Parkinson stuff, it was, I'm going through this, and I can keep this to myself, or I could share this. And it was one of those moments where I can't tell you how many messages I got from people like, oh my God, thank you for talking about that. I got people that got angry, like, how dare you talk about it? And then would come back, I'm sorry I was angry because I'm going through it right now, but I appreciate you shining a light on this, because, these are things, you don't necessarily see in stand-up. We don't want to think about our parents getting older. We don't want to think about our parents getting sick. We don't want to think about us now becoming adults and taking care of that stuff. Like, you look at the stand-up people love and on TikTok and stuff, it's always like funny, like dating. And like, I'm trying to now evolve into, all right, this is what happens. This is how we take care of it. And this is how we move forward.
You're percolating.
Percolating.
Like a good coffee.
Okay.
It's got to brew until the heat is right, and then the water comes through, and you got a nice cup of coffee.
Exactly.
I'm sorry about your pops.
Oh, appreciate it, man.
And your mom and all the things. George Lopez got into trouble recently. You probably know about this.
Yeah.
I don't think it did much for him. I don't know about trouble.
No.
But, you know, he was saying it is a comic's responsibility to chart their own path.
Yeah.
Did you, and not open doors, did you chart your own path? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Man, you trying to get me in trouble, Chris. Chris, you trying to get me in trouble. I must say this. I believe that other communities have done an amazing job of helping each other out. And it doesn't have to be racial, but like if you look at Joe Rogan, right? Whatever you think about his politics, whatever. He has created an ecosystem where he has helped out comics to get specials and create and chart open doors and chart careers.
Not just he is.
Tom Segura was one of his guys. Tom Segura is one of the biggest touring comics now. Bert Kreischer, he put him on. He told the story of The Machine. Now there's a movie coming out called The Machine. Bert Kreischer sells out wherever he goes. Any of those guys that have been on his podcast have blown up and become something because he has sort of created this ecosystem. Black community, same thing. They've opened doors for it. Def Jam was a movement that opened doors for those comics, and those comics then opened the doors and brought in other comics. You know, Eddie Murphy brought in Chris Rock. Chris Rock opened doors for people, you know, he's had on his staff. He had the Chris Rock show. He had staff of all comics, Wanda Sykes, all these people that he opened doors for. Kevin Hart does, shows and where he does specials on Comedy Central Heart of the City where he brings up young, up-and-coming comics and shines a light on them. You know, he's got the Plastic Cup Boys who have special on Netflix. Those are his guys that he's opened the doors for in his movies. Gary Owens, like he puts comics on when he can. George feels differently. That's all I'm going to say. So that's the way he wants to do it. That's the way he's going to do it. But you know, I think if you go on social media now and you read some of his posts and look at the comments, I think the audience has spoken that they are not down with the way he's handling things.
Is there a Brown comic or person that has created that ecosystem to open doors the way you just described?
I don't think there has been yet. I don't think there's been anyone. I think the industry has sort of still doesn't know how to deal with us or work with us. Because there's we got some comics that are huge, and you look at them and you're like, well, why doesn't this dude have a show? Why doesn't this dude have the opportunities that other comics have? You know, like you look at, Family Feud and Steve Harvey show. Like Steve Harvey's one of the biggest comics out there, right? So on the flip side, you look at the Latino community, right? We got Gabriel Iglesias, worldwide, known everywhere. Why isn't he hosting a show? Why doesn't he have some kind of game show? Why doesn't he have, why isn't he in like a ton of movies, the way Kevin Hart is or, Mike Epps or any of these guys are? Why? That's always the question. So for him to build, how can he build an ecosystem if the industry's shutting him out? If they're shutting him out, why are they going to open the doors for younger comics who are coming up? It's just it's such an odd thing, especially with comedians. Like, the industry knows the top two. They know George and Gabe. Like, I can't tell you how many meetings I go into. Like, oh, you like George? You're like, nope. Are you like Gabe? Like, no. I'm Erik Rivera. I always jokingly say that. I was like, I bet you $1 million if I'd asked somebody in the industry and one of these networks to name 10 other comics, 10 other Latino comics, they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it.
I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you would like to put on blast in a good way? That you're like, it can be a comic, non-comic, anyone who you're like, damn, this person is doing great work.
Yeah, as comedians, like I know you were like, you can't name 10. Like, look, Orlando Leyba, very funny dude, Dominican. He's been on The Tonight Show numerous times. Ian Lara, another Dominican. He's been on The Tonight Show numerous times. Got a special on HBO Max right now.
Dominicans are funny,
Max. Huh? Hilarious. Marcela Arguello, I believe she is Salvadorian. She's got a special on HBO Max. Go check her out. Ida Rodriguez, Puerto Rican Dominican, super funny. She's very political. She breaks down, how as a society we're lacking. She's amazing. There's so many comics out there that people should know and should follow and should, be spotlighting and looking out for. Again, there's not just George and Gabe. There's a bunch of us out there. So keep supporting live comedy and keep going after these people.
Anything you want people to look up for you or check out or?
Yeah, just social media. Whenever I have projects or anything I'm working on, I always promote. And like I tell people all the time, and I say this at shows, the best way you can support local artists. We're not asking for money. Just go to social media. If you like what you see, like it, comment, say something nice. We like nice things. We like nice comments. Don't you feel good when somebody's like, "Hey, hair looks good today"? It's like, "Oh, thank you." That's it for us, for artists. Like, go on Chris's page. Hey, love the book. It's gonna make him feel good. Won't that make you feel good?
It makes him feel good.
And share it. How much does a share cost? Nothing. Just, hey, I read this today. I saw this today. Thought I'd share it. That helps us as artists spread the word, but it also makes us feel good. Because I can't tell you how many negative comments are out there. That doesn't feel good. This dude's trash. And you're like, all right, I didn't need this today. But hey, this made me laugh. Just wanted to share it. Thank you so much. Cost you nothing. Didn't cost you any money. It helps out artists.
I love that. Any questions for me?
Am I brown enough?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're also the first person to ask that. You made it. Yep.
I made it. Cool.
If you make it in the room and you get through the whole interview, I give you a stamp at the end.
It says I'm brown enough.
Yeah, it's a sticker. I'll give you extra for your kids, too.
There you go.
Yeah, you're brown enough. Remember, y'all, if you like something, say something. Hit the like button and the share button and, leave a comment. And if you want to follow more of Erik's work, make sure to check him out on social media at Erik Rivera Comedy. He's easy to find. Peace. Brown Enough is a production of Stitcher Studios. It's created and hosted by me, Christopher Rivas, and I'm also an executive producer. Our team includes producer Manolo Morales, technical director Casey Holford, production assistant Gabriella Gladney, and executive producer Camille Stanley. Original music by Casey Holford. Special thanks to Abby Aguilar. Workhouse Media is a contributing producer to this podcast. Carlos E. Hernandez of Ikigai Management is also an executive producer of Brown Enough. Don't forget to subscribe or follow Brown Enough so you never miss an episode. Thanks. Peace and love.